YouTubers turned horror film directors seem to be all the rage the last couple months. First with Curry Barker's Obsession, and now we are getting Kane Parsons' Backrooms. Backrooms is based on Parsons' web series of the same name, and it is inspired by the quote-unquote Backrooms creepypasta. And in this film adaptation, it centers on a therapist played by Renata Reinsva who enters another dimension to find her lost patient, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. There's a lot of chatter around this, from the box office records it's going to break from A24 to these weird unfounded rumors that it was ghost directed by one of the many prominent producers on this movie. I can confidently say this movie is not ghost directed at all. In fact, I think the direction is the strongest part of this, and Backrooms boasts like a really promising and exciting vision. Kane Parsons is giving promising work behind the camera. It's very clear to me he knows what he wants, he knows what images he wants to put on screen, and a lot of that imagery is backed by intention. He's not just doing things for the sake of doing something cool or trying to like show off. There is intention. There's this seeping claustrophobia contrasted by these beautiful shots of like the wide open sky. I think he does a great job at building the atmospheric dread with his imagery. Also playing into that dread is the impeccable production design. I loved every little bit of. Backrooms themselves feel alive. There's something like pulsing in the fiber of its being, so to speak. Danny Vermetti's production design is so detailed and so unique, and it makes the place ever evolving, ever changing, and so very suffocating. I was really impressed with how much character this place contains for being such like a creepy, ominous, kind of basic place. It feels very full of character. Also, the sound design team, Jan Hetmer, Eugenio Battaglia, and Robert W. Booth, they make you feel so immersed in this world, from like the way the fluorescent lights sizzle to the thumping footsteps. It really builds this atmospheric dread. And that's why I was so into the first half of this movie. I was like really pulled in. I think it does a great job at immediately immersing you in this atmosphere, this setting that you can't help but shake like something bad is going to happen, and you're like peering around every corner, or trying to at least, to see what might be coming for you. I think the movie is especially sharp when it is using the camcorder footage, when the point of view is from that first person shaky cam. I'm not familiar with the shorts admittedly, but I understand that is like how the shorts are filmed. There's a chunk at the beginning, and then there's a stretch in the middle that is only camcorder, and those are the best parts. I think those moments do a great job at fulfilling what Kane Parsons' vision is, and really getting you tense and scared and terrified. Unfortunately, I think all of that work is undercut by the second half of the film. The script for this, written by Will Sudick, is weak, and I think those cracks really show in the second half. It's apparent to me that they took something that is mostly coasting on vibes and atmosphere and tried to retrofit a fuller story. I know there is some story to the short films, but they're really trying to stretch like a feature story in there, and they're really struggling to do that. Particularly, these characters are so very flimsy. Chiwetel Ejiofor's Clark is kind of this caricature of a man who's so angry his life didn't turn out the way it was. And Renata Reinsva as his therapist is kind of this stoic contradiction to him. Chiwetel Ejiofor's character is really big in his emotions, and Renata Reinsva is very much grounded. I think the two performers themselves are terrific. They're two of our best actors right now, and they're really trying to rise to the occasion, but I think they're really burdened by flimsy dialogue and thin characters. They're really trying to do a lot and infuse some backstory here, but I don't think it pays off. I won't spoil anything, but by the time we get to the finale, a lot of the developments feel a bit unearned and a little less than satisfactory, honestly. I was very underwhelmed by what transpired, and it doesn't make sense. And a lot of that is due to the weak characterization, as I've said, and the pacing. It is very stop and start and kind of jarringly, plottingly paced. I think Mark Duplass, Finn Bennett, and Lukita Maxwell are all wasted in this. They don't get really anything to do, and that was disappointing to me. And it ultimately culminated in something where I felt very unmoved and kind of like, what was the point? Now, I don't need every like horror movie to be this big, like metaphorical thing. I don't need every movie to be elevated horror, but there are a lot of crumbs in here, a lot of good ideas at play that are just not explored in an interesting way. I think there are some really interesting ideas here about how we like retreat into our own mind and how when the world around us is so disappointing and suffocating, we kind of retreat into conspiracy and how we lose ourselves in that regard. It's just not explored in a fulfilling way. I don't need my hand held through movies. I like kind of headier things. I like things that are open to interpretation, but this does it in a way that is so frustrating. This kind of leaves off in a very ambiguous place because it kind of just feels like they didn't know how to explain it, I guess. It just left me feeling kind of hollow and wanting more. I would admittedly be less frustrated if this were just like bad altogether. However, because, the technical pieces are so well done, because the production design is great, because there's such interesting and detailed VFX and makeup and hair, and the cinematography is beautiful, because it's also like technically well made, it's even more frustrating that it can't quite stick the landing. However, once again, I think Kane Parsons has a really bright future ahead of him. I can't imagine what his like third, fourth, fifth feature is going to be like once he gets more time under his belt. I think everybody needs to lay off the conspiracy theories and just kind of admit they're maybe a little jealous they didn't get to direct a movie when they were 20. And I'll give it this movie feels really authentic. It feels very clearly someone's vision, and it doesn't feel like a lot of the other people are trying to say ghost directed it. I'm excited something like this is going out in the world. I'm excited a big studio took a swing on this newcomer and gave him a shot. I'm excited it's gonna do really well at the box office. Unfortunately, it kind of falls a little flat for me, and I kind of understand why they've been holding it and why the embargo waited a little closer to break. I ended up giving this 2.5 stars. It didn't make me feel good to do it, but that's where I am. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you do all the things you're supposed to do with a YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow me everywhere, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!